Hello, Northboro students. That's what I'm talking about. Now I know I'm in Northboro. I'm Keith James, and as you have heard from your principal, I am the mayor of the city of West Palm Beach, the greatest city on earth, I call it. Now, how many of you live in West Palm Beach? Oh, okay. Huh? No, how many of you live now in West Palm Beach? All right, that's a very good percentage. Well, listen, I'm so honored and proud to have you as residents of my city. But before I can start talking about my job and my story, I want to thank Principal Harper and all of the teachers and administrators for having me today. Give all the teachers, administrators, and your principal a hand. I am so appreciative of all the hard work and energy and passion that the teachers and administrators bring as they invest in your life. And I just want them to know how thankful we are to them for their love, their determination, and their passion to help you grow and learn. Join me in thanking them again with a round of applause. So what I'm going to do today is tell you a little about me and my story and my background. Then I'll tell you a little bit about what I do as mayor and what mayor is. And if we have time, I can open up for a few questions. That sound all right? Now, when I was your age, now I understand you all are 4th and 5th graders, right? Yeah. So you're about 8 or 9 years old? No. What? 9 or 10. 9 or 10, right? 10 and 11? Okay. Well, when I was younger than you, I grew up in a city called Wichita, Kansas. Any of you ever heard of that? No. Why does that not surprise me? Now, have you heard of Kansas? Yeah. All right. And Kansas is in the Midwest, as you well know. That's in the middle of the country. All right? And so that's where I grew up. Wichita at that time, it was a city a little bit larger than West Palm Beach, and they had a lot of factories there, manufacturing plants. They built a lot of airplanes in Wichita. And you heard of Boeing, I'm sure, and they had Lear and Beech and Cessna. Anyway, so they attracted a lot of people to come work in the factories. So my mother grew up in Oklahoma. You ever heard of Oklahoma? Yes. Okay, and so when she was 16 years old, she graduated from high school, and then she went up to Wichita, which was the big city to her because her father lived there and he worked in one of the factories. So my mother started college at a college called Wichita State University. It's a nice college, still around today. Now, Mama was, a very smart young lady, but Mama made a mistake, and so she took up with my dad, and Mama got pregnant. And so she got pregnant at age 17, and then I know. But there's a good ending to this story. Don't worry, it's going to end all right. Didn't start off too well, but it's going to end all right. So Mama got pregnant, so she had to drop out of college. And so she had to go to work as a maid. Anybody know what a maid is? Yes. Right. That's not the most glamorous of an occupation. But, she had to put food on the table. So that's what she did. But the one thing my mother always taught me was the value of hard work and education. And so even though we didn't have much in terms of material things, and we lived in small apartments and small houses, she made sure that I got my education. And so when I was in school, like you guys, and brought home the report card every quarter, she'd look it over, and if there was any B's on it, I didn't get no C's, but if there were any B's on it, I had to explain to Mama why those B's weren't A's. Now, all y'all have mamas in here, and you know that generally there's not a good enough excuse to convince your mother why the B was. It's always going to be your fault, right? You didn't work hard enough. You didn't do your homework. So she really held my feet to the fire to make sure that I continued to make those A's and do the best that I could do in school. Now, another interesting thing, when I went to school, so I did really well. So when I was in the 3rd grade, the principal called me and my mother to the office. I went to a little school, an elementary school in Wichita, probably similar to Northboro, but my school was all black. Only black kids went to that school. So the principal called me and my mother to the principal's office, and they told my mother, they said, listen, Keith has done very well in school. He has tested very well on the standardized test that you all take, and we think you have a choice. And she said, well, what is that choice? She said, well, if we keep him here in the school where the black kids go, he'll skip a grade. We'll skip him a grade. So instead of going to the 4th grade next year, he'll go to the 5th grade. And then my mother said, well, what's the other option? She said, well, the principal said, well, we have what we call these accelerated learning classes, ALC classes, honors classes, they probably call them now. But interestingly enough, they didn't have any of those classes in the black school because I guess they didn't think the black kids would be smart enough to have them. So if we keep him in the same grade, and he goes to the ALC classes or the accelerated classes, there's a white school across town that you'll have to get him to. And so my mother thought about it, and she thought about it, and she said, you know what, we're going to keep him in the same grade, and we're going to put him in that school, in the white school across town. Now here's the interesting thing. That was before school busing, right? That they had not started integrating. You know what integration is? Okay, well, let me tell you. So back in the old days, they had what they called school segregation, okay? That meant that the black kids went to one school and the white kids went to another school. And so that's what the age that I grew up in. And usually the black schools did not have all of the materials. They didn't have the nicest textbooks and they didn't have the nicest facilities. They usually got the short end of the stick, I'll call it. The white schools had the better equipment, better materials, etc. So my mother, and so in 1968 in Wichita, at least, they started school busing so that black kids and white kids would start going to school together, which is a very good thing. But back then, when I was in the 3rd grade, they didn't have that. So when school started in the 4th grade, my mother had to get up extra early in the morning and get me over to the white school. Now, the other interesting thing is that school was elementary school, and it had kids from kindergarten to 6th grade, similar to this, right? You guys have kindergarten to 6 here? What do you have here? Pre-K to what? 5th. To 5th, okay, so similar, right? But I was the only black kid in the entire school, right? From kindergarten to 6th grade, there were no other black kids there. So I had to learn, so it was that way for 4th grade and 5th grade, and then in the 6th grade they started busing. So me and other kids from my neighborhood, now we could hop on the school bus. I could be on the school bus with them and go over to this school. So for 2 years, I was the only black kid in the entire white school. So that required, some adjustment, but we survived. And again, my mother, she wasn't going to give me a break. All right? Even though I was going to this all-white school, we had to get up super early and go across town, my mother still insisted that I work hard for my education. Now, times are different for you guys now, all right? The school that you have here, you have black kids, white kids, Latino kids, and you all are learning together, and that's beautiful because that's really what our country is all about, all right? When you get out in the real world, you don't have white jobs, you don't have black jobs, you have jobs that have people of all cultures there. So I had to learn how to operate and exist in a world that was different from mine. And there may be situations where one of you will have to be, whether it's in a school, whether it's going to visit a friend's house, whether it's a job, where you will have to learn how to adjust and adapt to a culture that is different to yours. So I encourage you to learn as much from your friends, even at this age, about what their experiences are, what the experiences of their families are, so you have a better appreciation of what their life is all about, and share with them what your experiences are and what your family's experiences are. That is what makes America great. So I tell you that because I think it's important for you to understand that there are going to be times in life when things don't go exactly the way you want to. When I was an 8-year-old kid, it wasn't particularly exciting for me to be the only black kid in an entire white school. All right? I mean, that wasn't fun, but you learn to adapt, you learn to adjust. Similarly, in your life's experiences, there are going to be times when you're in situations where you prefer not to be there, but if it's for your good and your growth and your development as a human being, learn to adjust. So, fast forward many years later, I had the opportunity to go to a school up in Cambridge, Massachusetts called Harvard. Have you ever heard of Harvard? Yeah. Well, that's pretty good, because I'm going to tell you, at the time when I was in high school, didn't really know much about it. And so one of my counselors encouraged me to apply, and I was fortunate enough to get in. And Harvard is one of those schools, it's a very good school, and it attracts some of the best and brightest from throughout, not just America, but from throughout the world. So here I am, this little country boy from Kansas, and I get this chance to go out east to college, and it was quite an interesting, but it was a very good experience, and it changed my life. And I tell you that because it's important for you to understand that you could be whatever you want to be. Did you hear me? Let me say that one more time, because I think it's important for you to understand this. You could grow up and you could be whatever you want to be. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Don't let anyone tell you that you're limited because of your skin color, because of where you live, or because of what you do, okay? So always keep in sight what your dream is and reach for the stars, and maybe someday you'll grow up to be mayor as well. Now, this is career day, so I know I'm supposed to talk about careers and stuff, and I want to talk about being mayor for a moment, but my career before I became mayor was a lawyer. Y'all know what lawyers do, right? Okay, so I was a lawyer, and to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. And I was fortunate enough to go to law school at Harvard as well. So the type of law that I practiced for many years before I got into politics was business law, all right? And what that means is that if somebody wanted to start a business, start a company, they would go to a lawyer, go to someone like me, and I would draw up the paperwork to form that business, or someone, if their business wanted to buy another business, or they wanted to sell their business to somebody, they would come to a lawyer, and I would do all those contracts. You know what a contract is? Yes. All right, so I was the lawyer that would draft all of the contracts. And so I did that, and I moved down here to Florida from Philadelphia in 1987. You all don't even know when 1987 was. None of y'all were born in 1987. As old as I am, some of your parents probably weren't born in 1987. But, so I moved down here. That was a long time ago. I'll just put it that way. And so I have been in West Palm Beach, Florida since 1987. Now, let me talk a little bit about what I do now as mayor. Who in here knows what a mayor is or does? Okay, yes, sir.
A mayor is a person who makes good decisions for the city.
There you go. Yeah, I like that answer too. What he said is the mayor is the one who makes good decisions for the city. That's what I do. No. The way I would put it to you is, as mayor, I'm kind of the president of the city. All right? What we have in West Palm Beach a form of government where you have a mayor and you have a city commission. All right? The city commissioners, there are 5 people who serve with me, and they are like the Congress of the city. They are the ones who pass the laws. There are laws at the city level called ordinances and resolutions, okay? And then I, as the mayor, I'm the one who really kind of runs the city, and I have a city manager who operates under me. So I take care of the administration of the city. I make sure that the trash gets picked up through the employees. I make sure that the streets are cleaned. I make sure that your police officers are paid so they can keep you safe. I make sure that your firefighters are paid so they can put out any fires, okay? That's what I do. And we have what's called a strong mayor form of government, and that's not because I have such big muscles, right? Y'all don't like my muscles? Okay. But it's because the strong mayor form of government, it means that I am the boss of this really big company, which is our city. And let me give you some perspective. We have 1,600 employees that work for the city. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And the combined budget of our city is $500 million. That's a lot of money. Okay? And as you can imagine, it keeps me very busy. That's a lot of work. So that kind of gives you a sense as to what I do. But let me tell you what some of the employees do that you may interact with from time to time. You know, the people who operate our various community centers, who operate our after-school programs, or any of you in an after-school program anywhere in the city, okay? Those people are city employees. If you go to any of our parks, if you've been to Gaines Park or Curry Park, any of the parks, the people who operate those parks, they work for the city. The trees that are planted along the streets and even in our parks, those people work for the city. The water that you drink every day, we have a whole water plant that makes sure that the water is clean and pure. And there are people there who work for the city that make that happen. Any of you ever been to our library? You ever been to our library? Yeah. All right, those are city workers, okay? And if you haven't been in the library, go there. They got some great books. And that's another thing I would emphasize to you. Read as much as you possibly can. I know it may sound boring. Put down those phones, put down those iPads, and get you a good book. Because, yeah, that deserves applause. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why reading is important. Let me tell you why reading is important. Because reading can take you from here to a whole other world. And it can help you understand a whole other people and a whole other culture. And that when you read and you are exposed to those other worlds, those other ideas, now it can help you develop big dreams. Okay? So you're not basing your dreams upon what your world is today or what your current circumstances are today. You can open up your imagination and open up your mind by being exposed to thoughts and ideas that you could read in a book. And so if you really want to expand your mind, read as much as you possibly can. If I don't show up for work one day, you may not notice, right? Because I work in this office and write a lot of emails and stuff, and people do it. But if the guys who need to pick up the garbage, if they don't show up for work on the day that your garbage is going to be picked up, your mommy and daddy, they're not going to be happy. If you go to after school program and it's closed because those city workers aren't there, you're not going to be happy. Your mommy and daddy aren't going to be happy. Similarly, if you go to the library and you do want to check out a book and those people aren't at work, you're not going to be happy. So there are a lot of people that report to me that influence your lives and affect your lives. And I'm very proud, I'm very humbled to be in this position. So I'm going to give you a chance to ask a couple of questions. But before we do that, I just want you to, hold on, before we do that, I just want you to know that this has been a true honor to talk to you, okay? Because I strongly believe, and it's what I said before, that you are the future. And so hopefully through a little bit of what I said, I've added a little bit of sparkle, of imagination, to our lives. And I'm counting on each and every one of you to continue to work hard in school. Just like my mother pushed me hard, don't accept a B if you can make an A. And always strive to make A's, okay? Don't accept and say, well, B is good enough. I want each and every one of you to work hard to be more than just good enough. I want you to work hard to be great, okay? Will you promise me that? Yes. What did you just promise me that you would try to do what? Be great. Be great, okay? Okay, all right, you young lady, you seem very anxious.
What made you decide to run for mayor?
Okay, that's a good question. She asked, what made me decide to run for mayor? So I don't know if you remember, I told you about the commissioners. I was one of those 5 commissioners, and I've been doing a commissioner for 8 years, okay? And so the mayor before me, she couldn't run again for mayor because under our charter or whatever the city's constitution, the mayor can only serve for a maximum of 8 years. So the previous mayor had served for 8 years, which meant that her seat would now be open and would be available. So I decided to run for mayor because I thought I had the most experience as a commissioner, and I thought I would be best for the job, and it was an open seat, so I said, you know what, I'm going to run for mayor. And fortunately, I won. And you can clap for that because I did win. Thank you. Okay, one more question, and then I hate to, you guys ask some great questions, but I know you have other people that you want to speak over there in the purple. I'm sorry, what now?
If you're paying everybody else, who pays you?
Well, that's a very good question. Who pays me? And believe me, I do get paid now. I'm not doing this for free. Yeah. No. So all of those taxes and fees and other stuff that I talked about, they come into the city, and then we have a budget, okay, that we put together. A budget is you look at how much money you're bringing in, and then you look at how the expenses are. One of the expenses that we pay out of that budget each year is the salary for the mayor, thank God. The salary for the mayor, all right? But that's a very good question. And so each year, the city has to pass, and this is what the city commissioners do, they have to pass what's called a balanced budget, which means that it's got to be balanced between revenues, the money we bring in, and expenses. And a lot of times that's difficult because there may be more expenses than we're getting revenues, which means we have to adjust certain things, and different departments may want more people, and so it's not an easy exercise. But yes, that's part of the budget. Listen, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.